All right. So the first discussion is on the ways, the different ways in which you can learn. Okay, especially the kind of methods that we use in a business school. There are two types of these two terms that you have to be familiar with. One is called the lecture tutorial method. Okay, and one is the seminar style method. Okay, these are teaching methods. So as students, not only do you have to study, you also have to be familiar with the different ways of studying. Okay, this is kind of like meta learning. It's like learning about learning. Okay, so you have to also be aware of what are the different pedagogical innovations coming across and what are the different styles of learning. So what you have seen, you guys are already familiar with the case method. You've seen it being practiced in your class, right? So the case method really falls into what is called the seminar style teaching. Okay, so in case method, in seminar style, what happens is the faculty really does not contribute much. Okay, I mean, they obviously do contribute, but it's mainly the inputs of the students. So mainly students have to give in all their different views, and then the faculty later on will try to integrate all that into one cohesive kind of solution. So that's what is called the seminar style method. Okay, where it's very interactive. Okay, and the other style of method is, if you're familiar with how physics is taught or maths is taught, you're all familiar with that from school days. So that is taught according to a lecture tutorial method. Okay, so if you have maths, of like if I'm teaching you how to do matrices, then I'll first tell you, okay, this is a matrix, these are the matrix, these are the columns, these are the rows, these are the columns, and this is how you multiply matrices. So there's not really much input from, I'm not going to ask everybody, how do you think we should multiply the matrices? There's only one way of doing it, okay? So it's not efficient. I mean, if you think about the case method, it's efficient for certain types of study, but it's not efficient for certain other. I mean, if I try to teach maths through a case method or physics through a case method, it would not be efficient, okay? So the other style of teaching is the what is called the lecture tutorial method, which is more appropriate for subjects like maths and physics. Okay, so you go through a bunch of concepts, and then you might have a tutorial where you're tested on the concept. So you're given some problems, you have to do certain problems, and the teacher will help you out if you have some if you are not able to progress. Okay, so that's the lecture tutorial method. So if you see, so this is one introduction to the different styles of teaching. And here, of course, we'll see that the other thing that you have to look at, another new style of teaching that has come up. I think it was pioneered by Caltech, okay, in California. This is called the flipped classroom method, which is what we're going to use in lab, okay, in this course. The flipped classroom method means that initially, see, the standard method of teaching is that you are taught certain material, and then you are examined on the material. So first, the teacher explains all the material, and then you are examined on it. Okay. In the flipped classroom method, what happens is you are not, the teacher does not explain first. You are just given the material, you have to study it on your own, and then you are examined on it, and then the teacher explains what is the right way to look at that material. Okay, so this is the flipped classroom. Flipped means basically turned upside down. Okay, so this is a new style of teaching that is being followed in many of the leading universities. So we are going to follow this for lab. So what's going to happen is, when your cases, that the judgments that you're given to make presentations on, I'm not going to give you any input on that. You have to read the judgment on your own, and you just have a set of questions, and you have to answer the questions on your own. So basically, I'm not teaching you anything. You are doing it on your own first, and you're going to be evaluated, because when you give your CP presentations, you will you'll be marked on your CP presentations. As you can see, different teams get different marks. So if you have understood the case, if you've understood the judgment well, okay, then you will get higher marks, and those who have not understood or are not able to present well, they'll get lower marks. So you get graded. Okay, so it's a flipped classroom approach. That's what's going to happen in lab. Okay, so you have to be aware of this also, that why are we doing it this way? What is this? So what are you doing? You should also have some idea theoretically about what is it that you're doing. So we can say that in lab we practice the flipped classroom method. Okay, so that you're aware of these kinds of teaching styles. Okay. Okay, now just the second part, just to briefly share some software with you. I mean, this is not really that important. If you guys I got one of my mentees was telling me that she was having a lot of trouble. I think she stays in Dwarka. She was not able to get much sleep. There's too much, work on the course. So, I mean, one of the things I suggested to her is that if you have trouble reading on the train, one of the things you can try out, I don't know if you're aware, there's text-to-speech software, okay, which I used a lot when I did my LLB recently from Delhi University. So we had to study a lot of judgments, and I was out on the train a lot. So I didn't want to read. So what I did was I installed text-to-speech software, and then I used to listen to the cases. Okay, I listen to the judgments. It's pretty good actually. It comes out quite well. I'll try and play something for you. if to figure out, maybe we shouldn't waste this time here, but I'll just play one. Okay, let's see how this comes out. So just to give you a sense of how text-to-speech works, okay?
As how the deed of settlement further, by which it appeared that the company was formed for the purpose of carrying on mining operations and forming a railway. It then alleged that, at a general meeting of the company, it was resolved that the directors of the said company should be, and they were thereby, authorized to borrow on mortgage, bond or otherwise.
Okay, so pretty clear. So that this software that you have here, I've just given you the links. Okay, this actually it costs about 320 rupees or something. So I had to buy. There's a free version also, but it's very irritating because he keeps telling you to buy the software. So I bought the software. So anyway, so just to give you an idea of what is possible with modern technology. Okay, so you can do this, and then you can convert. While this is, so what I do is I take the text and dump it into the text-to-speech software. While it is reading out, I use this smart voice recorder to record the narration, okay? And then I use a media converter, because these are WAV files which are very big. And then I use a media converter to convert it into MP3, which is about 1/4 the size, okay? So then it's easier to store. But you can see how this is like the default mode. If you want, you can change the voice to a male voice. I'm okay with the default, so I didn't change it. So you can change, and you can have different this works on Google text-to-speech software. Okay, so this is just some ideas for you if you have trouble, because you guys have to study a lot. Okay, it's a very competitive time. You guys have to do a lot of reading. Okay, so if you're stuck in a situation where you can't read, maybe you're in a car, it's not good to read because it's moving too much. So you can actually use text-to-speech to just listen to stuff. In fact, I've got so used to this that I prefer this rather than reading, because I find that the retention is better if I listen to it rather than if I read it. So I mean, these are just personal preferences. But anyway, so I'm just going to give you now, in the rest of this section, I'm just going to give you, this is like our module unit 0. It has no connection to lab, or it has no connection to any other course that you're doing. Okay, so these are some general guidelines which I want to just share with. I feel it is my duty to share it with the students, because I feel many of the things that I'm going to tell you now, I wish that somebody had told me when I was your age. So I feel that when I was your age, I wasted a lot of my time doing all kinds of stupid things, which now, if I had a chance, I would not do. I would spend my time in a more constructive way. Okay? So you know there's this saying, right, that youth is wasted on the young. You heard the expression? So when you're young, you have so much energy, and you waste your time doing all kinds of stupid things, especially the guys. Okay, the girls are more studious, but the guys are all very distracted. Okay, so anyway, so I just so sometimes I feel that you know, because we see a lot of our students come in, they just want to get a degree, they are not interested in learning. Okay, so sometimes a little frustrating for teachers, because we feel that they're not interested in learning. So then in that case, I would not do this kind of a module, because it has no relation to any kind of degree work that you're doing. Okay, you're not going to get graded on this. But I think this is important advice that young people should be given, even at the MBA stage, which is quite late actually. This kind of stuff should be taught to students in school, in junior school. But still, better late than never, because I never heard this kind of stuff until I was like in my 40s or something. So okay, so the first thing, I think I gave you guys this idea in the orientation itself. Okay, the first thing you have to avoid is, a lot of students, I'm noticing a lot of MBA students who don't get into the top schools like IMA, IMB, etc. They feel that, oh, you know, we are somehow second grade, you know, and we are not good enough, as good as the other guys who got into IMA and all that. So that mentality should be avoided. Okay, actually, I don't think this is true, because I think when you guys enter into different management schools based on your CAT scores largely, okay, I don't think the difference between the students at IMA and the students here is that much when you enter. But what happens is, by the time they graduate, the difference is very big. Okay, this is actually highlighted to me by one of my students that I taught a course at IMT Ghaziabad, and one of these students was telling me, and then I realized he's right. So this is happening because the guys who are at IMA and the top schools, they are actually working like maniacs. They're working like maniacs for those 2 years, and the students who are in the not so highly ranked schools, they have already given up, like, okay, we are all going to be playing only Ranji Trophy for the rest of our lives, and we are not like top grade, so why bother? Okay, so they just keep on doing all kinds of other stuff. So this is the first problem that you should avoid. Okay, so this is the first step. Okay, at this first step you didn't make it to a top tier school. Okay, but that doesn't mean that the whole game is over. The life is a marathon. It's not a 100-meter race. Okay, so you have to look at ways where you can catch up and you can compete with the best, and it's possible. Okay, you have to believe that it's possible. So first, don't like shoot yourself in the foot in the very beginning. Okay, so one of the reasons why, if you look at this job, they've stopped doing this report now, which is why they're still dealing with the 2016 report. But the point is that this gap still exists. Okay, so they're talking about a skills gap. This is based on US business schools. So US business schools, if they have a skills gap, you can imagine that in India it's much bigger. Okay, so what they have done, you can study this format later on your own. I don't think you can read much. It's quite bright actually. But it's actually a four box framework. I mean, it's like a quadrant. It's like a quadrant here. Okay, 4 quadrants. So this you can just study on your own. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Okay, but essentially what it is, they've done looked at various skills. The most important thing for us is actually this part where they're saying that these are the skills in this quadrant. Is everyone able to see the quadrant? You can see it? Okay. So what they're saying is in this quadrant, which they've shaded blue, you can't see the blue shading. This is the part which is what they're calling the sweet spot, which is less common but more desired, which means companies desire these skills, but they're finding that in the crop of MBA students that they're recruiting, these skills are less commonly found. Okay. And so what they're saying is leadership skills, okay, creative problem solving also, I guess you could say that, and strategic thinking, and then communication skills. Okay, these are examples of skills. So the point here is that even the top-notch MBA programs leave the companies, the recruiters, dissatisfied on many fronts, because the MBA programs, one of the main reasons for this is that MBA programs are designed by academics. So most of the people who have designed MBA programs have never really worked in industry. Okay, they're very limited industry experience. So because of that, there is a gap, and it becomes quite big in certain types of disciplines. So there is an opportunity if you identify the kinds of skills that companies want and business schools are not providing. Okay, plus there are other areas, like if you go into specific domains, there are certain types of domain knowledge. Okay, especially in areas like finance, where you can have certain types of domain knowledge which are not being actually covered in the typical business school programs. Okay, so if you work, the message here essentially is that because even the top MBA programs are not doing a perfect job. Okay, so if you can address the shortcomings in the top programs, and if you can build certain critical skills which companies require, okay, even though you're not at a top business school, you still have a chance at the interview stage to perform better than people from the top business schools. Okay, so therefore this is how you should see that. I mean, this is the way that you have an opportunity. So don't give up at the early stage. So you can try and make sure that you are very well prepared. Okay, and as far as interviews are concerned, so you have to prepare yourself on the assumption that you will get a very good opening at the interview stage. Our placement team keeps on working on it. Okay, now you may not this next year the companies might improve or whatever, but the point is that you have to be prepared, assuming that you're going to be interviewed by the best recruiters. So don't assume that, oh, okay, we are not going to get the best recruiters here, so let me just do like 50% preparation. Don't do that. Okay, because you could get opportunities from here and there through some connections, somewhere the door might open. So you have to be 100% prepared. Don't like under prepare yourself, assuming that you're not going to get a good opportunity, because life has a way of throwing out good opportunities in random ways. So you should be prepared to the best possible extent. Okay, so is this clear? Are you getting the message? Okay, all right. Okay, so there's another thing that I want to deal with a little bit, that especially in our culture, we have a tendency to distinguish between stupid and smart people. Okay, we say, okay, this guy is kind of stupid and this guy is kind of smart. Now, I think that's not the real distinction actually, according to me. So what I want to just share with you, I think that the real distinction is between lazy people and industrious people. Okay, so here essentially you can see the message that I'm giving. I think it's important to be aware of this. Okay, that you know what is industrious, right? Industrious means hardworking. Okay, so the real distinction, so what my view is that the people that we call stupid are actually basically lazy people, because they're not willing to do the hard work required to become smart. And smartness is it's your brain connections, and your brain is also something that grows with use. It becomes more powerful. The brain is not some static entity that is given to you at birth, that okay, you've been given this kind of brain. Your brain power can increase if you exercise the brain. Okay, just like your biceps get bigger if you do bicep curls in the gym. If you do brain work, your brain will also become more powerful because the brain is being pressured and the brain has tremendous capacity. So you have to understand that the brain is a plastic entity. If you push your brain, then it will become smarter over time. Okay, but you have to push your brain. You have to have that belief that it can be done. Okay, so that's the other top point that I wanted to mention. Okay, now one more thing. This you will hear only this. You understand what is meant by tunnel vision? Do you understand what is meant by tunnel vision? Yeah, it's focus, right? So everyone has heard this. This is something that you'll hear only from me in this institute, because all the other faculties are not in line with this particular idea. But my point is always that we should not be actually encouraging students to do all this, freshers party means you just give them some food and drink and let them have fun. Don't, like I was just like watching you guys spend so much time preparing for the freshers party. I mean, the performances are very good, but the point is you're not in first year of college anymore. You're in a professional program. You have to compete with other students from top tier business schools, okay, which I believe you can compete with them. So you should be spending your time 24/7 on just preparing yourself to become like business ninjas, okay, which means 24/7 you understand only business. You don't distract yourself with the sports day and this day and that day and all kinds of stuff, which I'm not in favor of, because I think that at all this kind of activities for first 2 years of college. First 2 years of undergrad college is where you do all this kind of stuff. Okay, you enjoy your freedom from school, and now you're in a professional program. It's a master's program. Now this is what serious business. So I think that encouraging students to do all these kinds of sports day and this that, I think it sends a wrong message. Okay. So I think the message we should be sending to our students is that they should have tunnel vision. That you should, the moment you enter the institute, throughout the day, for these 2 years, okay, you forget everything else. Okay, like one of my mentees, she was saying that I am a yoga instructor also. So I told her, you forget about yoga for 2 years now. Okay, so you just put it aside. You can do your yoga once you graduate. Now for 2 years, you are just involved. Your brain should be immersed in the sea of business. Okay, 24/7 you should just be getting input on global business, nothing else. So this message is very important. Everyone knows the story of Arjun and the bird? Yes, sir. Yes. Everyone knows, right? So the problem with Yudhishthir was when he was asked, what can you see? He said, oh, I can see you, I can see my brothers, I can see everybody. So then Dronacharya said, tumse nahi hoga, you go. Okay, so that's the focus that you need to have. It's very important because you need to give yourself the best shot at getting a good job. Okay, so later on when you're graduating, you should not have a regret that I did not do this and I did not do that. Okay, so these two, because once you start working, you will not have the ability to, you won't have the time to study. Now you're a full-time student. Use this to become a business ninja. Okay, that should be your goal. So which means the way you do it is 24/7 you should be just absorbing input on global business. Okay, and the way it works is if you bombard your brain like that. Remember I said the brain is a plastic entity. Okay, so if you bombard your brain continuously like that, even with stuff you don't understand, maybe you're learning about some business issues in France or something like that. It doesn't matter if you don't understand. If you keep on doing that, right now you'll understand only 2%. If you keep on bombarding your brain, after 6 months you'll understand 25%. After 9 months you'll understand 35%. That's how it grows. So you can't achieve everything in one day. If you build up the momentum over 2 years, at the time that you're graduating, you'll find that you're very well informed. And what's going to happen is that the way that your brain has been bombarded, because nobody is stupid here, okay? If you bombard your brain will figure out a way to make sense of things. It will figure out how to process the information, okay? When you're dreaming at night, what is happening? Your brain is actually, filtering out all the different information, is filing. The brain is actually filing information between long-term memory and short-term memory. That is why you get dreams. One of the reasons why you get dreams. So the brain is going to figure out a way, and by the time if you keep on bombarding yourself like this for 2 years, by the time you graduate, what's going to happen is when you're talking in your interview, because the interview will be decided in the first 5 minutes, they will look at your confidence level, they look at your body language. Okay, what's going to happen is when you're answering questions in your interview, because you absorbed input from so many sources for so long, the way you answer questions, that will show that you have this much domain knowledge that you've been doing, all the hard work that you've been doing, that will show up in your interview answers, in the way you answer questions. Okay, and that's where you seal the deal. Are you following the strategy that I'm laying out? Okay, is everyone clear? Okay. All right, okay. So the other thing, there's an article here now. This is behind a paywall, so you can't. But this is, you know who Sheryl Sandberg is? Nobody knows. Okay, so this is again showing you that you are not sufficiently immersed in business, in the world of Sheryl Sandberg is who's the CEO? COO. What is the COO? Chief Operating Officer. So Sheryl Sandberg is the COO of Facebook. Okay. So this is an interview with Sheryl Sandberg where she's saying that we don't need MBAs in Facebook. Okay, what Facebook is doing is actually they're taking +2 students and giving them coding tests, and they're hiring from there. Okay, and so therefore there's a demand in the US now for just pure coding related training. Okay, so what she's saying basically, you don't need an MBA to excel in tech. Okay. So the point is she's making is that we don't care about your degrees, we care about your skills. That's what matters. That is what I tell many of our students who think that they're just going to get a degree from here and that's it. Degrees don't really count for much. When companies are interviewing you, companies are not fools. They will hire people who they think that they can do something for the company, okay? And for that you need skills. So now you're transitioning, because we have a very badly messed up educational system in this country. We are incentivizing students to get degrees and marks and all that. We are not emphasizing skills. So you need to rectify that for yourself. You're a part of the system, so you're affected by that. You need to rectify that for yourself, okay? And understand now that now the game is about skills. So you have to be always thinking. I'm amazed when I see many of the students here going around, just getting a degree. When we were at IIM Ahmedabad, where we have no concern about jobs, because I graduated in 1990, so it's a long time ago. But the point is, even at IIM Ahmedabad, I was continuously thinking about what skills do I have? I mean, why should a company hire me? What can I do for a company? So I was always thinking about skills, that I need to develop some real world skills which will be useful for a company. And that's why they're going to hire me. Okay, so you have to think about that in these terms. Why should a company hire you? Every day you look in the mirror and ask yourself, why should a company hire me? What do I know? What can I do for a company? That should be your mindset. This is clear. So accordingly, you have to go outside your curriculum, and that should be your focus. If required, you go outside your curriculum, it will be required, and focus on developing skills. Okay, have that question on your mind all the time. Okay. Are you guys getting bored or what? Are you following what I'm saying? Okay. I've given you an example here just for the sake for finance. Okay. There's this website which is a major financial recruiting website. So obviously it doesn't apply to other people who are not doing finance. But you can go to other recruiting websites. There are many recruiting websites. The point is here that you go to the websites, go to the recruiting websites, look at the job descriptions. Okay. Take some random jobs, look at job descriptions. I don't know why it's taking so long to load. But anyway, I'll just give you the message. The point is that you go to recruiting websites, look at job descriptions. If you want to understand, let's say you're interested in maybe supply chain management. So go to some supply chain, go to a recruiting website, look at some supply chain management jobs. Look at what they're saying in the job description. What does the guy need to do? Okay. So then you know, and they'll also mention what kind of skills are required. Okay. So try to go to these job sites and get a feeling for what the job descriptions are, what skills are required, and then you ask yourself, do I have these skills? Okay. So in this way, you should develop an understanding of the world of business. Actually, on this you will find there are some jobs for graduates also. Okay. On this particular website, there are jobs for graduates also. You can search jobs and look for graduate jobs. Graduates or trainees or something, but the idea is this is for freshers. There are jobs for freshers also. Okay, so you can do that. Go to all the different job sites and look up the JDs. Okay, you understand what JD is? Job description. Okay, all right. So broadly, the skills that you have to focus on are these skills: critical thinking, obviously. Okay, I'm not going to repeat all this stuff. Domain knowledge, I'll explain what that is. Okay, strategic thinking again. Essentially, strategic thinking is about, have you guys done any strategy courses yet? Not yet? Okay. So strategy, you will find strategy is a very integrative course. Okay, so strategy is where you design the business strategy of a company. Okay, so like one of the big questions that people have about Apple today is now, what is the next big thing for Apple? Okay, because these iPhone sales are not really growing that much, okay, and they're having to cut the prices a little bit. Of course, average price still went up, but now what is the next big thing for Apple? This iPhone has worked very well. What is the next? Is it the car? Okay, now people are saying, should Apple buy Tesla? Okay, these kinds of questions, these are all strategy based questions. So strategy, you'll find, is a very integrative subject where you have to integrate finance, marketing, okay, operations, all kinds of things. So strategy is a very integrative subject, and it basically, when we say strategic thinking, this is what CEOs require. If you notice, this is one of the traits that companies are not able to find in graduates, okay, even from the top schools. So strategic thinking is how you can integrate on a big picture, level, all the different disciplines and come up with a holistic strategy for the company, okay? Because every company needs a strategy, all right? Every company needs a strategy, so you have to have that ability. This will come over time, but you have to be aware of what is required, okay? So these are the kind of skills that you have to develop, okay? So analytical, essentially, everyone understands what is analytical. You will see some of that in your lab itself. When you look at the judgments, you'll see that the judgments are very analytical, okay? It's very logical. The judgments are very logical. So this is what analytical thinking essentially means, okay? And you have to bring your own individual perspective into that, okay? I'll discuss that briefly a little bit. Domain knowledge, I'm just coming to. Now, communication skills, I just want to briefly spend a little bit of time. This is a very big problem, okay? Most companies still talk about communication skills, and I haven't listened to all of you guys talking, but I'm pretty sure there'll be some people in the batch whose English is weak, okay? Either your spoken English or your written English. The spoken English is what people detect first, okay? Interview, they're not going to check your written English first. They'll see your spoken English first. So you have to be very careful. Make sure you work on this, okay? Because this, in India, if you're going to get a better quality job, your English needs to be good. If your English is not at least, fluent, it just needs to be manageable. You don't have to speak like Shashi Tharoor, but you can just, it has to be manageable. So you take it to a level where it should not be an issue anymore, okay? People should not feel that this guy can't speak fluently, okay? Because we had one guy, actually, one of your super seniors. We had a good company from Bombay called BARC. They do all the television TRPs, Broadcast Analysis Research Center. They made an offer to Mukund, but another BARC. So these guys, another student from Mukund's batch, who was also deemed to be technically competent. They wanted to make him an offer, but his English was so poor. The guys were saying, now, because this particular data scientist role, you have to go and make presentations in front of other, executives and company top management. So they're going to ask you questions. Okay, how did you get this finding? What is the justification? Now, if you're not able to answer fluently, how are you going to cope? So they basically rejected him based on communication skills. So don't let that happen to you. The point is, again, as I said this, on communication skills, you have to, again, self-belief is important. You understand what self-belief is? You have to first believe that this can be done. Okay, like I said, if Zimbabwe is playing Australia in a cricket match, the one thing they can do is we should just give up because we are a lower ranked team, we can't beat them. You think that's what they should do? No, they should play and try to win, right? So that's the point, that don't give up. You have to first believe that it can be done. If you don't believe that it can't be done, then obviously you can't do it, okay? So communication skills, very important, okay? There are easy ways to do this, but you have to first believe that it can be done. I've given you some example. Young Akshay Kumar, you guys have not seen, but young Akshay Kumar could not speak a word of English, okay? So, but now he speaks okay, okay? Harbhajan has also improved his English, and the most dramatic example is Narendra Modi. His improvement is quite dramatic, okay? Where he doesn't speak that much anymore, but he made a speech to the Australian Parliament, but his improvement is quite dramatic. So the point is that it can be done, okay? But you have to put your mind, you have to first believe that it can be done, and then you have to do it. You have to get it done. Okay, so we can give a lot of other examples. Have you guys heard of Nani Palkiwala? No one has heard of Nani Palkiwala? Okay, so Nani Palkiwala is one of India's greatest lawyers. Okay, he's passed away now. And anyway, so Nani Palkiwala, as you can imagine, a lawyer has to argue in the courtroom. Okay, so he's actually called Courtroom Genius. There's a book about him called Courtroom Genius. You can read that if you want. So, but Nani Palkiwala had a stammer. You know what a stammer is? Yes. Okay, so he had a stammer when he was young. Okay, so how does a guy with a stammer become India's greatest lawyer? Again, shows you that it can be done. Okay, he actually practiced. I don't know what exactly he used, but he used some technique to get rid of the stammer. There's another famous person from ancient history. There's a guy called Demosthenes. I'll just write his name because he's quite important. You can Google this. You'll see a picture of him talking on the beach. So have you heard of this guy, Demosthenes? Okay, so have you heard of Alexander the Great? Yes. Okay, so Alexander the Great's father was Philip II of Macedon. When he was invading Athens, okay, there was this guy, Demosthenes, who actually inspired the Athenians to fight against Philip II of Macedon. Now, obviously, if you have to inspire a bunch of Athenians, you have to be a good speaker. But this guy, Demosthenes, also had a stammer. So how did he become a great orator? He used to take pebbles and he used to put pebbles in his mouth. I think Palkhiwala also did something similar. He used to put pebbles in his mouth, and then he used to go to the seashore so people wouldn't laugh at him. And he used to practice speaking with pebbles in his mouth. And that's how he got rid of his stammer. Okay. So the point is that you can take extraordinary steps and improve, and you can make dramatic improvements. Even people with stammers can become great orators. So you have to make an effort, because this is a very big problem with a lot of students. Okay, so don't let this be a problem for you. It's very easy to do. I'll give you listen to, the way you do it is, you immerse yourself. Okay, let's just take an example. It's like suppose I were forced to live in a remote village in Japan where no one speaks in English. Okay, let's say right now I don't know any Japanese. Okay, now I'm forced to live in a remote village in Japan where no one speaks any English for 1 year. Okay, now when I come out of that village after 1 year, do you think I'll be fluent in Japanese? Yes, because even for water, food, everything, I'll have to speak Japanese. Okay, so the way, and how does that happen? Because I'm forced to learn Japanese, because everything around me is in Japanese, or my whole world is Japanese. So I have to learn, because otherwise I won't survive. Okay, so the way you do it is, this is the immersion technique. Okay, so what you do is, if you want to learn, if you want to become fluent in English, you make sure that your whole world is in English. Okay, so you maybe form a group with your with your buddies, where you only talk to each other in English. Then you talk to your faculty members always in English. Then when you go home, you listen to BBC World, or you listen to some this Bloomberg News. Yeah, I'll give you this link. I've given you some other links also. So you listen to English business news programs. We can see that we'll give you the link later on. Or let it load. Okay. So the point is, you listen to English business news programs that serves a dual purpose. One is that your world is now in English, because you're listening to somebody talking in English all the time. And second, you're also getting business news. Okay. You're also getting business news. You learn that which famous car company executive has just now been put in jail. You know? Have you heard this? A famous car company CEO. Not plugged in. You guys are not plugged into the world of business at all. Okay. You heard of Renault Nissan? Yes. Renault Nissan, Mitsubishi Motors, there's a big joint venture. So the head of that, Carlos Ghosn, is a Brazilian, I think, but he has been the head of that company for a long time, very high profile auto industry executive. He's now in a Japanese jail because he cheated on his income tax. So he understated about $100 million worth of income. So now he's in a Japanese jail. So all this stuff you get to hear if you're listening to business news continuously. So this is what I'm saying. The model for you guys is, forget everything else. You are just in a cocoon, in a bubble of business, and that's all you should. Your brain should be bombarded with business news 24/7. Okay, so India, a global, everywhere. Okay, it's a global world, so your basic format is global, and then you study India in depth because you're located here. Okay, so this is not loading. We'll show you the other link. So the point is that if you're listening to English programs all the time, okay, you understand what is meant by immersion. Okay, I'm not going to spend more time on it, but make sure you fix this. Okay, 2 years is enough time to fix it. Make sure you fix it. Okay, I still see students coming and talking to faculty members in Hindi, because Hindi is not the language. Nothing wrong with Hindi. I also studied Hindi in school, although it's not my mother tongue. But the point is, Hindi is not the language of global business. You are business students. Okay, so you have to be fluent in the language of global business, which is English. Okay, even the French are learning English now. Even the French, Italian, everybody's learning English, and there's no shame in that. It's a useful language in a way. It's actually, if you see, it's the only language in India that we can use everywhere. I mean, you can't go to Madras and speak in Hindi. Okay, but you can speak English everywhere. Okay, so this is now, you will find this file. You will find this file in your folder. Okay, I'm just going to open it again. So as far as now this is on the aspect of, when I'm talking about, you see here, these 4 skills that I'm talking about. Now we are talking about domain knowledge. Okay, so domain knowledge means a broad knowledge of business. When you track business news, what will happen is, it will contribute to your strategic thinking as well, and it will also contribute to your domain knowledge, both. And in a way, if you're listening to English business programs, it is also contributing to your communication skills. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, so what you have to read is global business news. I have to change this link. Okay, what you have to do is, I'm going to change this link to Reuters. Okay, I'm going to change this. Let's call it, because Bloomberg, what has happened is Bloomberg is very good, but it's now gone behind a paywall. You know what a paywall is?
Yes, sir.
Paywall means it's an internet news site, but you have to subscribe to get access. Okay, so this global business news, I'm going to change this link. First, I'm going to remove it. Do you know how to enter hyperlinks in Google Docs? Everyone knows. Highlight the text, press Ctrl K. First, copy the link, then press this. Okay. Now it's got linked to Reuters. Okay. Reuters is still free. It's a major business site. Okay. So this is the Indian version of Reuters. You can read all the other versions. A lot of information, and it's still largely free. Okay. So you can see all this stuff. Make sure you read all this every day. Okay. Figure out what's going on in the world. Make sure you track all this every day. There is another website here that I'm going to put India. Okay, on India News, what happened? People are rustling. Are you getting bored? Okay, so these are all things which you're not aware of, right? You need to do this stuff. Okay, India News. I need to see the left hand side menu. Actually, it's not coming up. Yeah, okay. So if you just press this, click this link, this is the Google News link, okay? This file is in if you press this India News link, okay, if you click this link, this will open up. And here you can go and click on business, okay? So make sure at least the headlines you read every day. And then certain stories you should read in detail, okay? Your India market knowledge has to be also in-depth. You should have very good coverage of global business news, and you should also have in-depth coverage of India business news, okay? So all these stories, it's a pretty long list of stories. Okay, see this guy's, if you had been reading this, you would have known this. This is the guy, Carlos Ghosn, okay? The pronunciation is, it's written as Goshen, but the pronunciation is Ghosn, okay? So Carlos Ghosn, and so this is the, so all this stuff you read, okay? Are you following what I'm saying? Okay, so your first link is thing, and then for India business news, I'm going to add one more, which is this Bloomberg Quint. Okay, now what has happened is, although Bloomberg has gone behind a paywall, Bloomberg has set up a media collaboration with this company called Quint in India. So this is not behind a paywall. Okay, so this is also something that you should read every day for your India news. Okay, very good. They get pretty good analysis. Okay, so now you can see this. This is MF. What does MF stand for? Mutual funds. Okay, good. So all this stuff you make sure you read every day. Okay, and these guys also have business TV. All these stories you can read all these stories. Okay, you can read all these stories. Now you'll see what is happening here. Why is that video not? TV should be coming. Yeah, here is the Bloomberg live. Okay. So this you can go either through YouTube or you can go through this website. So you'll see their live broadcast. Okay. So this is the Bloomberg TV India version. Okay. Now this will become Bloomberg Quint Live. So this you can get India business news on this. You can also listen to CNBC TV 18. Okay. So every day what you should do is for your India business news, you should track what is happening on Bloomberg Quint, all the stories, the Google headlines for India business news. And then also track, at least listen 1 hour in the evening, at least listen to CNBC TV 18. They have good summary programs. Or you listen to Bloomberg Quint, okay, one of the business programs, at least 1 hour every day. Okay, make sure you're totally plugged in. If you do this every day, I told you about the bombardment theory. Your brain is continuously being bombarded, okay? Eventually it will have a very good impact, after a period of time. So read all this stuff, then I'm going to put this also as a link so that, yeah.
Any business podcast do you suggest?
Any business podcast? Business podcast as such, I haven't thought of any business podcast, but I'll give you the Bloomberg. I think with the material that I've given you, that is good enough. Okay, if you follow that every day, it's good enough. Then I'll give you some other specific inputs if I need. If I think some specific links need to be followed, I'll give you particular podcasts. Okay, so Bloomberg Quint link I've given you. Okay, and so this is for local news. So local news, now everybody has the formula. Okay, Google News, then Bloomberg Quint, then Reuters. Read the Reuters also. That's partly global, partly India. Okay, now close this. All right, now let's go here. Now this is for global news. Okay, I'm not going to go through Bloomberg. Better use the YouTube. So now I'm coming to global news. Okay. Now I'm going to global news coverage. Very important. Okay. You have to be plugged into everything. There's a port strike in Brazil. You should know about it. Okay. Some of the students do it quite well. I remember IIT Ghaziabad. A lot of the students, like the previous night there was a deal in the US to solve the budget problem that they were having. And the next morning, these guys were aware of it when I was checking in the class. Okay, so you have to be that plugged in. You have to be listening to this all the time. That's why I said 1 hour in the evening, at least listening to this. 1 hour in the evening, listening to Bloomberg Live. What we are looking for is Bloomberg Live. Okay, because these guys haven't put. This is their home page. Yeah. So when you check for Bloomberg Live, you get this. Let me put this link here. Put this here. Okay. This is the main link that you should. Okay, that link. Are you following what I'm saying? Okay, this is the best way. You can go through the Bloomberg homepage also, but it's a little harder to find. If you search for Bloomberg Live, then look at that link. You saw that live now.
Yes.
You saw that link. Okay, so look at that and then click that. And so here you will have. So this will open, I think a bandwidth is a little bit. So this news now, Bloomberg 24, this particular, now this is global Bloomberg, okay? Not Bloomberg Quint is the India version of Bloomberg, and this is global Bloomberg TV, which is actually one of the best business channels that you can watch, okay? And it's available 24/7. Although markets are open only from Monday to Friday. On Saturday, Sunday, these guys have some replays. They have some very interesting interviews with technology leaders. You can get people from robotics in Silicon Valley. They will interview them. So all this stuff is learning for you guys. Everything is learning, okay? So a lot of material on this website. I don't know why it's not loading, but when it does load, you'll see this is what they're covering. Is they'll start from Hong Kong, Tokyo, then they'll cover, then they'll pass the baton to London. Then from London, then it goes on to New York. So it's useful. You can listen to the New York Times broadcast in the night, okay? Or whenever it's convenient for you, but the New York Times broadcast is better. So you can hear, you will listen a lot. It's very focused on financial markets, okay? But it's important for people to understand about financial, even if you're not planning to take finance, okay? You need to understand financial markets. You need to have some kind of basic idea, because financial markets are driving the global economy now, okay? You'll have dramatic moves, like the oil price has been crashing recently, okay? Dramatic fall in the oil price. This has tremendous impact across the real economy, okay? This can cause bankruptcies in the case of drilling companies who rely on a high oil price, okay? This can cause projects to be cancelled, okay? So it has dramatic impacts, and it all starts from financial markets. So it's very important to have an understanding of it. Don't just say, oh my God, I don't understand this, I don't want to watch it. So don't have that attitude, okay? You just watch it every day on a regular basis, whether you understand or not, it doesn't matter. Is this clear?
Yes.
Don't give up just because we are having a bandwidth problem here. So, okay, so don't give up just because, so this is your routine, okay? So India Business News, and if you watch Bloomberg TV on a regular basis, and plus if you, from that Reuters website, okay, and from the Bloomberg Quint, you will get global business news, and if you watch Bloomberg TV, you will get global business news, a decent quality input on global business news, okay? So that covers this part, okay? And then if you want to read more, you can look at some of these other websites, okay? This is slightly more focused on financial markets. If some of you guys want to use charts and start following markets, okay, you can use some of these charting websites, okay? This, I've given you this link. This is actually quite a useful link. If you click this, you will get this kind of a chart. This is a useful charting website, because you can actually, on this, again, this is kind of finance focused, but as I said, everybody needs to understand how to follow basic financial markets. If you're working for maybe you're working in the purchasing department of an electrical cabling company or something, so you will be concerned with copper prices, okay? So you need to know how global copper prices are basically set globally. Okay, we don't set the copper price in India as such. So you need to know, this is a very useful, you can set up a login for yourself, so that you just need to go to this link and create your own login. So if you want here, you can just click here and look at copper prices. Okay, if you have here, you can just look at copper prices. And so the point is that even people who are not interested in finance, need to be plugged into global financial markets, because many important commodities like copper, crude oil, gold, the prices are all being set in global financial markets, and they have massive repercussions in the real economy. Okay, if you're running an oil company or if you want to look at how much copper prices have moved or how they have moved, you can get a good idea about this. So this is how, let's say, from this period, okay, from June of 2012 to today, this is how they have been moving. Okay, so you need to have an idea about all these things, even if you're not a finance student. Okay, in purchasing departments in an electrical cabling company, copper prices are important. You need to know how they've been moving. So you need to be fluid. You need to be fluent in the way you move between all these different domains, and the way you study financial markets, because they're so important. Okay, so don't have this thing that I'm not going to study finance, so I'm not interested in this stuff. Okay, that's not an option in today's world. It's not an option. Okay, so these are some of the other things. So you can explore these other charts. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into the detail of the other charts right now. Okay, but you can explore it on your own. Okay, these are broad asset classes: currencies, bond markets, debt markets, equities, and commodities. Okay, you can read all this material. You can follow this material on your own. Okay, and now I'll just talk briefly about your selection of finance. Okay, some of you, I see your students, seniors. This is your general instructions file. Let's go back to, where is the other? This. Okay, where is that other file that we were talking about? Unit 0. Okay, right. So are you following what I'm talking? I may be talking a little fast. I hope you're not finding me incoherent. You're following what I'm saying? You're getting the message? Okay. So all this stuff, the total bombardment that is going to happen on your brain, that will eventually lead to all kinds of development on domain knowledge, strategic thinking, communication skills. Okay, these are all things that you have to do. Okay, so really apply yourselves and work on this. Okay, so now before this, I just want to add one more thing here. Business, and let's say selection of finance elective. Okay, now this problem, I'm just giving you a heads up because I'll be teaching you the finance electives. Okay, so what you do is, I will just set up a if you just subscribe to this channel, okay, I'll give you some of the links. Okay, okay, what I will do is I will give you some of the links, as far as instead of wasting time on this now, I'm going to give you. So finance elective is watch sample classes. Okay, because what is happening is, like, 58 students from your senior batch took finance, but many of them are not interested in finance. If you're not interested, you don't need to know any maths, okay, beyond high school algebra. You don't need anything beyond high school algebra, maybe just a little bit of idea of calculus. You don't really need to use calculus on a daily basis. But the point is, there's a perception that you need very high levels of math for finance, which is a perception that is perpetuated by academics. It's not correct. Okay, in the real world of finance, you don't need anything. You should be comfortable with algebra. You shouldn't have any fear of any kind of math, but you really don't need that much math. What you need is conceptual skills. Studying finance is very much like studying law. It's very rigorous, analytically rigorous. You need to have, you need to be able to understand concepts. Okay, so and you have to obviously be interested. If you are not interested, the point of giving you all this financial markets news and this that is, you should be able to figure out, is this something that fascinates you? Are you fascinated by financial markets? How prices are moving? Okay, what is happening to the oil price? What happened to the Iran embargo, and Trump suddenly gave concessions to India and a lot of other countries. Then the supply, there was excess supply in the oil market, prices crashed. All this dynamic, is this something that fascinates you? If you're all you need to take up finance is, you should have the willingness to work hard, and you should be fascinated by financial markets. Okay, the study of finance is totally focused on financial markets. So if you're not fascinated by financial markets, you don't have an interest, then you will not like finance, because it's very rigorous. It requires a lot of work. But if you like financial markets, you will not find it burdensome. Okay, that's the important thing. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to send you an email later on, because of your senior batch. I've recorded some of the videos of their classes. So I'll send you some of those public videos. You can listen to the examples. You can watch the classes actually. Okay, and then if you go through those classes, this is for your selection of electives. okay, down the road. So watch those classes, see is this something that appeals to you, okay? If you don't find it appealing, don't take finance, okay? Because I really don't want to have students in the class who are not interested in finance. It's very boring to teach people like that. Okay, now quickly this class finishes at 11, right?
Yes.
Okay, quickly let's try and run through this unit 0 today itself. Okay, very quickly I'll just run some macro guidelines, okay? These are all general principles, okay? Individualism, very important, okay? Not sufficiently emphasized in our society because we are kind of more of a collectivist society. We don't emphasize individualism, but there's nothing wrong with individualism. It is not antithetical to, individualism doesn't mean antisocial behavior, okay? Because we are social creatures by nature, okay? So even if I'm not bound by any social customs or social mores, that doesn't mean that I'll stop, having friends, I'll stop seeing my uncles and aunts, because it is our natural tendency as human beings, even as an individual, it is our natural tendency to, connect with society, connect with other people, okay? But the point is that you are here basically, if you see, you guys all know Bruce Lee?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Bruce Lee used to always say, express yourself. He used to always say, express yourself, my friend, okay? So his autobiography is called Artist of Life. Okay, there's a book on Bruce Lee called, not an autobiography, a biography of Bruce Lee. It's called Artist. A very interesting guy because he used to write poetry, he used to do a lot of calligraphy. So Bruce Lee's advice also is express yourself. So what you need to understand is that your life is about an expression of yourself. So you should also try and think about what do I actually stand for, and then the duty that you have. Okay, there's this beautiful line by this English poet called Stephen Spender. Okay, who says that it's every man's duty to the universe to fulfill his potential. Okay, so you should see that is really the purpose of your life. So everyone has a unique perspective, unique set of skills, and you should understand who you are, what do you want, okay? And then you should try to, your life is about expressing yourself. So that whenever you study, okay, all the material that you're studying, even all this business news that you're absorbing, everyone is going to have their own unique perspectives and how they integrate all that news into their own worldview, okay? You understand what a worldview is? A worldview is a way of looking at the world. Like socialism is a particular worldview, capitalism is a particular worldview. Like here, you know that Delhi CM, like Kejriwal, is a socialistic worldview. Okay, he wants the government to do lots of things. That's one type of worldview. A capitalistic worldview would be minimal government, more emphasis on free markets. So these are different ways of looking at the world. So you will form your own views. You don't have to agree with my view or somebody else's view. You have to form your own view. Okay, but you should be able to defend your view. You should be consistent. You have to be consistent. You can have any view, but you have to be consistent. You have to be able to defend your view. Okay. So understand that life is all about expressing yourself. Okay. So there are some interesting ways to give this message. Have you heard this song called My Way? Okay, you can listen to these songs. I've given you the YouTube links. Okay. So My Way is a very well-known song. It's a classic song by Frank. You heard of Frank Sinatra? Paul Anka? All these guys? Okay. So anyway, it's slightly before your time, but it's a very famous song. Point is, this song was written for Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra is a famous singer, actor, okay, entertainer, okay. So Frank Sinatra's life, what the point of Paul Anka's song is that Frank Sinatra lived a very sort of flashy and very sometimes, breaking the law, this, that, getting into fights and this, that. But the point is that Frank Sinatra did his thing, he did things his own way. The point is that it's, I mean, regrets or whatever. So, I mean, the point is that it's, I did it my way. Okay, that's the end. That's the punchline. That's the chorus line in the song. So the point is, all of this is about that. Your life is about you expressing yourself. Okay, so think about that and focus on that all the time. So I've given you different ways to hammer home that message. Okay. Another thing is Buckminster Fuller. He had a very interesting image. He is basically saying that Buckminster Fuller is a famous inventor. He's like Elon Musk from a couple of generations ago. So, so he's saying that you're the captain of the ship of your destiny, okay, which is sailing on the ocean of life. So you need to decide, like, so from time to time you should drop anchor and decide, okay, am I going the right way? Am I going in the right direction? Okay, this is very important. Introspection is also important. From time to time you drop anchor and you look at where your ship has come from and where it's going, and you should ask yourself, okay, is this where I want to go? Okay, so these kinds of things are important, okay, because this is ultimately, all this is happening within the larger scheme of your life. You have to be aware of all that. Okay, this is also important. Then in all this, another thing I want to highlight briefly, you'll notice that in every situation you have two identities. Okay, you have an emotional identity and you have a rational identity. Okay, so simple example, if you take, like if you're looking at a packet of sweets, okay, if you have a sweet tooth, okay, maybe you want to have the whole packet of sweets, okay, because you can't stop. Maybe if it's like son papri or something, you can't stop. Okay, so then what you, now your emotional side wants to have like the whole packet, okay, or maybe it wants to have too much. But your rational side should kick in, saying that, okay, I have got a goal that, you know, I need to come down to this much body fat percentage in 6 months. Maybe you've set a goal for yourself, okay. Maybe you set a goal for yourself, and then if you say that, okay, if I eat the whole packet, then I will violate that goal. Okay, so you have to understand that everywhere in your life you're facing these kind of situations. Okay, when you have work to do, maybe you don't want to do that work, you want to go for a movie or something. These are all decisions that you're taking. Okay, so it's a battle between your emotional self and your rational self. Are you getting the message? Okay, so you have to understand, in the larger context of what we discussed here, okay, it's every man's duty. Remember, your duty is to fulfill your potential. Okay, you have to express yourself. Of course, you have to have fun along the way as well. But you need to keep sight of, keep track of the longer term vision. Okay, and you have to understand. You have to so what is happening is that the rational part. You understand what a trustee is? This is actually a legal term. A trustee means, suppose my friend has a young, very tiny daughter, and he maybe not, he has some other problems or whatever, so he wants to appoint me as a trustee. He creates a trust for his daughter, and he appoints me as a trustee. Okay, so that means the trust has a certain pool of money. So now I have to manage the money. I am the trustee, and the beneficiary of the trust is his daughter. So I have to manage the trust for the daughter's benefit, not for my benefit. I don't know what. Okay, I don't know what happened here, but the point is that as a trustee, I have to manage the trust for the benefit of the beneficiary, for the welfare of the beneficiary. So you can think of a trust as a situation where your talent, okay, what are you going to express in your life? You're going to express your talent. Everybody has a talent, okay? So it's like, you understand what I'm trying to say here? That the rational part of you, okay, is like a trustee for your talent. You have a certain talent, you have to express, you have to exploit that talent, okay, and achieve certain things, okay? And the rational part of you is acting as a trustee for that talent. That means the rational part of you is managing that talent, okay, and managing your energy and your time in a way that the talent can be maximized, that the talent is actually expressed fully, okay, and your potential is maximized. Are you following what I'm saying? Okay, so that's just a term from the law, okay, to finish this point. Okay, so so far you're following the train of thought. Is it logical? Okay. Now another thing that I said was, individuals, now don't talk, that this kind of conduct will lose you marks in the class, okay, in the future when we start tracking CP points. Okay, all right guys, focus, let's try and finish this chapter. Okay, quickly. Now another thing that I said, independent, okay, if you're expressing yourself, obviously you have to understand, first you have to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, what are you going to express? Otherwise you're just randomly doing whatever comes into your head, right? You have to have a good sense of who you are, okay, before you express yourself, okay? So that's why you have to understand the other important part which follows from individualism is that the power of independent thought. This is, I can't emphasize this enough. This is the most important thing in the world. There are people with double PhDs who can't think for themselves. This is so rare, you won't be, it's amazing, okay? There are so many people out in the world, most people can't think for themselves. They get easily brainwashed. Okay, they get easily brainwashed by the media, this, that. You must develop this. This is more important than any degree that you get. The ability to think for yourself. If somebody comes and tries to give you some kind of, spiel, you should be able to analyze what he's saying and say that, okay, no, this guy's trying to brainwash me. This is not correct. You should have that power of independent thought. Okay, and that, as you can see, is connected to individualism. Can you see that? If you're thinking about yourself all the time, if you're thinking about who you are, what you believe in, okay, that leads to independent thought, okay. This is very important, and this is also connected to critical thinking as well, okay. So, all right. Now, another thing that I've talked about, that I want to just discuss briefly is, these are all techniques from psychology that you should be aware of. You can try and then you can try and implement it in your own life. There is something called an observing ego. It's a term used in psychology, which is essentially what you're doing is, if you're doing certain things, okay, as you go through your life and you do certain things, you try to develop a part of yourself which kind of sits outside of yourself, and it's observing what you're doing, and it's observing your thoughts. Okay, maybe whatever decision you take, every decision that we take mostly is there's some kind of logic behind it, maybe good logic, bad logic, but there's some kind of thinking behind it. So you're actually, the observing ego is sitting outside of yourself and observing your own thoughts and your actions. Okay, and through that you have to try and figure out, you have to figure out the dysfunctional thinking patterns. Okay, in the sense that, like, maybe what happens, it's not a good example, but maybe if you try out for the football team, let's say you try out for the football team and you don't get selected. Okay, and then what you tell yourself is that, okay, I'm no good as an athlete. Okay, this is the kind of self-talk that you engage in. Okay, when you don't make the football team, you say that I'm not a good athlete. Okay, now that's one way of talking to yourself, but you could have also said that at this point of time I wasn't in sufficient shape to be able to make it to the football team. Now if you talk in the second way, that means you're not making global statements like I'm not a good athlete. You're just saying that at this point of time I was not well prepared, which means after 6 months you can try out again if you're better prepared. Okay, that's a more positive way to talk to yourself. Okay, so we are always talking to ourselves about the things that happen in our lives. Okay, so the observing ego tries to sit outside of yourself and observe the way you're talking to yourself, the way you're reacting to situations. Okay, so your thinking process, so therefore you critically analyze your thinking process so that you can improve your thinking, because if you think in a positive way, you will end up with positive outcomes. Okay, now we say this facetiously, but this is actually quite serious. If you think about it, most of the outcomes that happen to you in your life actually reflect your own mindset. They're not like anybody's fault, or okay, there is some bad luck, good luck business that's going on. But by and large, whatever happens to you, okay, there is a saying actually that whatever happens to you reflects your mindset. That the outcomes that you have experienced actually reflect your mindset, the way you took decisions, the way you made decision choices in the past, that has led to these outcomes. Okay, so this, once you think about it, it's quite powerful. That means that by changing your thinking, you can change your outcomes. Okay, so you have to think about all these things. You have to do more research on these ideas and be conscious of all these things. Don't just go through your life like a zombie, just going through the motions. Analyze what you're doing. So introspect from time to time. What have I been doing? Is this the right way to do it? So because I want to finish this in this class, so I don't want to spend too much time. Read these two books if you can. Okay, this is a free book that is available, and this is also a very interesting book. I don't know how much this costs. And Anthony Robbins, because this is actually old. This is like written by a Greek philosopher, Epictetus. It's an old book and it's written in an old style. Okay, but it's available for free. You can read it. It's very good. Basically, what it tells you to do is it tells you to focus on the things focus on your main task in life. Focus on the things that you can control. Okay, it's a very important work of Stoic philosophy, which is, I think, everyone should read. Okay, but this is a more accessible edition. Anthony Robbins' Unlimited Power. You can read this book, but it will cost you something. You can check what it is. Okay, but I think it's worth it. It's a good book. Okay, and if you want, you can read this book also, Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius. Have you seen Gladiator? Have you seen that Russell Crowe movie? What is that movie? Gladiator. There's a movie where, anyway, so Marcus Aurelius is a famous Roman emperor. Okay, he's a very famous Roman emperor, very big, great conqueror, but he also tried to apply philosophy in his daily life as an emperor. Okay, so that's why the Meditations is an important piece of work. Okay, and this guy is actually the coach. He's actually the teacher of Marcus Aurelius. Okay, Antonius means Marcus Aurelius Antonius is the full name of the emperor, and Epictetus is actually a Greek philosopher. He was a slave and then he was released, and he taught this Roman emperor. Epictetus is the philosopher that he taught the Roman emperor. Okay, so what I would do is, I'm trying to wrap it up. I don't want to do it, and I don't like to do things in a hurried way, but are you guys getting a sense of what I'm saying here? Okay, so you do some research on this on your own. Okay, another thing, so this cognitive psychology, the observing ego, this is very prominent in sports psychology. A lot of these sport, like this Michael Schumacher and all these kind of drivers, they are not just about the physical skills. Physically, if you look at him, I've actually seen him. He's even shorter than I am. Not a very impressive figure, but obviously he's drive. It's all mind. Okay, it's completely mind, and the way you talk to yourself in your mind. Okay, these things are very important. And the other thing I want to leave you with is Kaizen. Okay, I think I'll have to spend some time on it in the next class also. We have a couple of minutes. Okay, have you guys heard of this expression Kaizen? We'll continue. I don't like to rush it, so I will continue in the next class also. Have you heard of Kaizen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is Kaizen? Continuous improvements. Okay, small and continuous improvements. Very good. At least you heard of this. So this is also the way you can apply Kaizen to your daily life. Okay, if you're trying to go to a certain place, you're trying to achieve a goal, don't get frustrated if you're not able to do it on the first day. First day, second day, first week, second week, third week, it's not working. It doesn't matter. Keep trying. Eventually, it'll work. Okay, so that's another idea that you can apply in your own in your own life. Okay, this file is in your folder. Okay, I will just talk about this briefly. This file is in your folder. You can open this file. I've given you these online course portals. Now I don't want to overload you guys because you also have coursework to do. But if you have time, if you can manage time, at least fiddle around. Get a feel of these things. Okay, these the blue ones are the important ones. Okay, where you can actually go look at all these course portals and try to do some of the courses on these. I'll discuss this briefly in the next class. I'll continue with this. I'll just close up on this topic in the next class. But try and start and finish that reading by Glanville Williams. So it's okay. I think I'll give you. Okay, your time is up. Okay, so we can stop here now, and please make sure you do